Love, light, and blessings. This is Shamanic Awak Priestess here, and I wanted to make this video today because I made some videos about my updated collection, and for those that have been following me for these last 2 years or those that are new, I used to have 63 decks, and when I first started reading professionally, when I first started on this path, I only had one that I used exclusively for about 2 years, and then started gradually adding to my collection. Then I started going to a phase where I was just buying a lot of decks, and started to feel overwhelmed with them. And so I started to purge my collection. I did like a tarot and oracle video separately, and at that time I had about 63 decks. Purged them down to 39, then further purged and added a few new ones, and now the last count was 23 active. I do have one on pre-order for next year. I got rid of another deck from my active collection, which was the plaidbacks, Right Away Smith, and I got the giant deck, which I'm going to be doing an unboxing of in another video. And I also added another deck, the Golden Dawn Tarot, which I'm going to do an unboxing video of that as well. And then I recently acquired this third new deck, and I'm going to explain why, because I feel like I went from like getting decks to kind of just trying to make myself feel valid by having a certain amount of decks. That's what happened with me. I'm not saying everybody who has collection does that, but me personally, I did. And then when I made my collection smaller, it started to feel like when I first started on this path, it started to feel more authentic. And I kind of promised myself that it doesn't mean that I may never own 63 decks or that the collection might go up, but that each deck would mean something to me, that there will be decks that I will plan to use or that I would feel that are valid to add into my practice. So that's why the Golden Dawn Tarot called to me, and the giant Right Away Smith called to me, because I am really studying the Right Away Smith and really studying tarot in itself. So those are like two study decks. This third deck is because I noticed when I did my collection video the lack of diversity, the lack of decks that have brown people that look like me. And I started kind of actively searching that. That's why I added decks like the Voodoo Tarot, which unfortunately did not call to me, but I found it a good home. So it was meant to be bought. It was just not meant to be bought to me. So I gifted it to someone very near and dear to me and special to me. I added decks like the Odisha Tarot, which I do use still. I added decks like Vision Quest, which still speak to me and are still in my collection. And one of my newest acquisitions, the Afro-Brazilian Tarot, because it isn't exactly my path, but it deals with Orishas and Afro-Caribbean spirituality, which is something that means something to me. It's a part of my path. Then, because I bought that deck, I found this one. So I added this one to my collection, and I just felt compelled to share this with my viewers on there if they wanted, just to give people different ideas. They have a lot of wonderful indie, well, not a lot, but they have some wonderful indie decks. They do have African archetypes, and things like that. They do have Black people, African American people, and people of various colors and things in some indie decks. But sometimes some people can't afford to buy an indie deck. So I've been kind of trying to find mass-produced decks that are maybe a little bit more affordable to the average person, just to give us choices and not to feel like, you always have to assimilate or use certain decks. So this one is created, it's called the African American Tarot, and it's created by Jamal R. Thomas Davis. And Yeah, the artwork is by Thomas Davis, and the deck itself was created by Jamal R. Um, and so there's been some controversy. I haven't seen too many unboxings of this, but some people are like, why is it called African American Tarot and it has like African people in the deck? I did open this deck and I did look through the cards and I did read through the little white book, because I've seen kind of like people that like the deck and then some people that don't like the deck. So I kind of wanted to give it a chance myself, and my oldest daughter encouraged me to get it because I was like, I don't know if I want to get it because some people might not be, they might be offended by it because it's African American, but it has like an African person in the deck. So she was like, just buy it, mom, and just kind of see it for yourself. So that's what I did, and I kind of wanted to pre-do that. And once I read through the little white book, I decided I do want to share it in my channel, and I am planning to use this deck in my personal practice. Okay, because I figured I'd buy the deck if I didn't like it or found it offensive. You know, I could always get rid of it. I mean, it didn't cost me like a little bit over $20, so it wasn't like I lost a huge amount of money or anything like that. So again, the Jamal R. was the person who created it, and the artist is Thomas Davis, and it's called the African American Tarot. It's available on Amazon, and it's another Los Caribo deck. The Afro-Brazilian Tarot is also available on, if you have Amazon Prime, you can order it on Amazon. It's also a mass-produced Los Caribo deck. So these two decks are readily available on Amazon. Okay, so I wanted to read the intro to you guys real quick. Because I felt like just showing the cards wouldn't do this creator justice. So I'm going to do a little bit more in-depth flip through of this deck, okay? So, African American Tarot. The first man was African. It is common knowledge by now that the human race got its start in Africa. For thousands of years, the African continent was the cradle of mankind, and it developed great civilizations and many different ethnic groups. This is one of the reasons why we cannot speak of a single African culture if we want to use the term to indicate a uniform set of myths, legends, cultural references, much less if we want to speak of a unified Afro-Western culture. The historic atrocities of slavery, followed by those of racism and segregation, have robbed the individual African communities of the direct ties to their original culture, without ever entirely breaking those ancient bonds. Afro-American culture, history, art, and mythology are defined by a common origin: Africa. This common origin is the cornerstone of this deck. So basically, he's saying that when this person uses the term African American, they're not only talking about anyone of African descent in America, like the United States, but in the Americas, so they're linking all African descendants to the title African American, and that's why you see African archetypes in the cover of the deck, because they're trying to unite anyone of the African diaspora, meaning that if someone's from the Caribbean, because if for those that don't know, there was slavery all over the world. African people were brought in ships all over the world, places like India, okay, places like the Caribbean, places like the United States. So there was different slavery in different parts of the world, and the creator wanted to kind of bring everything back to Africa, where they have been scientifically proving that the first human beings existed, the first ones they could trace, the oldest skeletons. So he wanted to trace everybody, link everybody back from Africa to who we are as a people now, no matter what part of the world you are. So that's why they named it African American Tarot, for those that are confused by the name. So he didn't want to link it to just one place or just tell one story, but tell numerous stories. And kind of the deck is based not just in voodoo or Santeria, but many different African religions, because Africa, like Native Americans, are not just one culture. Every native tribe has their own lineage, their own culture, their own practices, and every part of the African continent has their own languages, culture, religious beliefs, folklores, myths, mythology, deities, Africa is a very diverse country, so there's just more than one path. So the creator wanted to kind of make a very inclusive deck of different African paths and of many different African people from different lineages, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I kind of wanted to read that because I felt that was very important and valid for since there's a lot of confusion with the title. So without further ado, it's the same, you know, 2 cards. You get the cover card, so on and so forth. This is the backs of the deck. It's your regular standard cardstock you're going to get with Los Caribo, which I love. I think it's perfect. I don't like thick cardstock. I cannot shuffle. I read professionally. It's the only reason I buy my deck, so I need the thinner cardstock. You know, everybody has their own interpretation of what good cardstock is. To me, this is good. It's not too bendy where it's going to get damaged, but it's flexible enough for me to rifle shuffle and things like that. So the first card is the Fool. Now, the Fool is supposed to represent the soul. So this person, this individual, and the Fool's card represents the soul. Okay, the second card is the Magician. He's supposed, and there's some nudity in this deck, just letting anybody know, like the regular tarot. This, the Magician is supposed to represent the first ever human man, who's from Madagascar. His name is kind of hard for me to pronounce, so if I mispronounce it, I'm sorry. Adri Bahomanana. So it's supposed to be like the first human male that they discovered in Madagascar. The High Priestess is supposed to be Minona, and she's a spirit of divination, and she comes from Togo and Benin, and she was known for divining and sorcery. The Emperor, okay, is the deity Oshun, which is supposed to represent the mother. She is the deity of love, creativity, and fertility from Nigeria. So that's who represents that archetype in this deck. The Emperor is supposed to be the father, Olorum. Okay, one of the aspects of Olundumbare, creator god, in many various African traditional religious beliefs, and he reigns over the sky. Okay, the Hierophant is represented by Tisu, okay, which is supposed to be a deity, a person who was a witch doctor, or the deity of witch doctors from the continent of Africa of Namibia. The Lovers are represented by the first man and woman that they found the remains. So the mother and father of all humanity is supposed to be the representation. So Andri Amam Baho Manana and Andrea Mahilala. So these are supposed to be like the first human beings, and then you see like creator above them. So that's the Lover's card. The Chariot is represented by Oya. Storms and change. And Oya is an Orisha. The Strength card is represented by Shango, who reigns over, you know, the storms, hurricanes, fires, things like that. So he's an Orisha. The Hermit's supposed to be Deng, a witch doctor who civilized the deities who abandoned mankind. The Wheel is represented by Elegua, Lord of the Crossroads. And Elegua, a lot of people think is only a child, but Elegua can be Elegua has over 100 paths. So Elegua can come to you as a child, a man, or an elderly man. So he has many different aspects. And in this aspect, that he is an adult. You have Justice, which is supposed to represent various tribal ethnic groups, and the archetype they picked was Chosi, or some people might call him Ochosi, which is justice, which makes sense with justice. Then you have this beautiful card, which is, I believe, supposed to be the Hangman, and it was renamed the Observer. And this represents an initiation to Ifa, okay, to Ifa, which many various African traditional religious practices, such as Santeria, that originated in Cuba, that's followed in Puerto Rico, Haitian Voodoo. Well, Haitian Voodoo is different. Let's backtrack that. That has nothing to do with Ifa. I'm going to backtrack that. Sorry about that. I meant to say New Orleans Voodoo because they do serve Orisha. Sorry. New Orleans Voodoo, which do serve Orishas and Loas as well. It's a little bit more mixture there. Also originates from Candomblé, Umbanda, Regla de Ocho, Lucimi, so on and so forth. A lot of these religions that honor the Orishas originated from Ifa, okay? Originated from Ifa. Ifa came directly from various parts of Africa. So the hangman, you know, it's all about contemplations and epiphanies and things like that. And that's pretty much when you're being initiated into these very powerful practices. That's basically what you do. You separate yourself from the world and you go and do these very elaborate and beautiful, also very tiring rituals. And you get a lot of revelations, you know what I mean? So, and it is a lot of self-sacrifice in these rituals like the hangman, okay? The next card you have is death, and death is represented by, okay, which is, you know, death is about ancestors, so on and so forth. This archetype is Ate, and she's the deity and dispenser of the gift of death and conflict, and she originates from Nigeria. So there you go. Then you have 14 temperance, medicine spirits, okay? You have a Babaluaye, which is also an Orisha, who reigns over illnesses and your health, which would make sense with the temperance card, which is all about balance. There's light and shadow and everything. And Babaluaye's energy is like that. Now, you're going to see language in the little white book, like God and goddesses. In this deck, it's okay for me. Even though they're not really god and goddesses, I get it, because this deck is meant for everybody. I think they use that wording to kind of make people understand, because most people know more about like god and goddesses, because that's kind of what's mainstream right now in the spiritual community and a lot of channels and stuff like that. So I think they're trying to make people understand kind of like blend. So like, oh, okay, like this will be like this goddess or god or whatever, but they're actually Orishas and Loas. But like I said, I can excuse the language, whatever. I'm not going to get into a whole thing about that. 15, the devil. And this is supposed to represent a Nasi, which is a mocker spirit and originates from West Africa. And these spirits basically are very, like, they're responsible for like a lot of bad things. The tower, or you know, in those belief systems, the tower, all about corruption and evil, is supposed to represent the Gonab, the spirits of evil, catastrophes, and epidemics, and they're believed to have come from South Africa. So I love that the creator has blended many different religious beliefs in one deck. This one is 17, the stars. And this is supposed to be Akuji, the deity of the sky and rain from Kenya. 18 is supposed to be the moon, which is supposed to be female, Mawu, the female half of the creator god, Mawu Liza, which resides in West Africa. This is the male part of the god Liza. There's the second half male creator of West Africa. Okay. Then you have judgment. Judgment. And judgment's all about the earth and the origins. And this card represents the Kakagui, which is the deities of funeral rites, ferrymen of the souls, which originate from the Ivory Coast of Africa. And then you have the world card, which is supposed to be Oduduwa, who is the brother of Obatala. Okay, and was believed to have taken, it's like a long story, but basically the brother of Obatala. Okay, and that's the world. Then you have your chalices or your cups. The ace of chalices is represented by Buk, the deity of water, and originates from Sudan. The two of cups is Okun Lunkulu, who is the deity who invented marriage and originates from Zulu. But now, as you see in the two of cups, they also tied it to modern, so African Americans in the Americas, in the North America here, and then you have Africa, okay? And in the blue, like the light blue, it's supposed to represent Jean Baptiste du Sable from Haiti, okay? So that's who that is up there. Then you have your three of chalices, Minbaba Miwana Waresa, which is the spirit of beer and harvest from the Zulu. And then on the above part there, you have Louis Armstrong, that is from New Orleans. So you get to learn about, you can, like what I'm going to plan to do with this deck is I'm going to actually research the stories and some African American individuals that are in the back, like the little, you see, looks like little drawings in the background. Some of them I know who they are and some of them I don't. So it actually teaches me, it encourages me to research more of the African American history in America. So I think this deck is good for that too. Kind of, they use people of the more modern times with lore from Africa, different parts of Africa, to kind of tie their stories together, and I kind of like that. So this, I feel, for me, is a good deck for ancestral work and things like that, and also good to like learn about your own recent history too. So I think I like how they tied that together. For the four chalices is the friendship of the orphan and the lion, and James Augustine Healy is who they represent there. Then you have Moshan Yana, hero slayer of the monsters of the Kohulu Malumo, Africa. And then in the back you have Frederick Douglass, okay, who was from Eastern Maryland. You have Jumbo, the Night Fairies of Senegal, and Bessie Smith. And that's the Six of Cups. Seven of Cups, Alu Ruya, the hidden deity of the Ivory Coast, and Paul Lawrence Dunbar for the background. Here you have eight, the pygmy deity of hunting and initiation rites from the Congos, and in the back you have Malcolm X, which I notice is someone they barely talk about in history. I love Malcolm X and I love Martin Luther King. So nine, the Nine of Cups, you have Kale Melemi and the Pythons Give from Central Africa, and Matthew Henson, which was a traveler. Then you have the Ten of Cups. You have Oshun Mare, the rainbow snake of Nigeria, and Joseph Sinke from Mani Siri de Leon. You have your Knave, which is represented by Papa Legba. Papa Legba is a voodoo spirit. So I like how they tied, again, different spiritual practices, because voodoo, Haitian voodoo, New Orleans voodoo, does come from Africa, from the Dahomey tribe, and also comes from Benin and Togo. So I love that. And Legba is like an Elegua spirit. So in Santeria Legua, Legba, and voodoo, you know, crossroads, reigns over all languages, so on and so forth. The knight is represented by the hare, the spirit of shrewdness in almost all of Africa. The queen is Marwe, the woman who came back from beyond the grave in South Africa. So she is believed to have resurrected from death. The King of Cups is Hetisi Ibib. And if my pronunciation stinks, I apologize. for that. And he is a deified hero who defeated Gorib from South Africa. For the pentacles, we have Nagay, protector of newborns in Kenya. The protectors of newborns in Kenya. So I love that. Yo is the Two of Pentacles. The prankster, son of Mawiliza, West Africa. Age, which is a deity of deity of hunting from Benin and Togo. And in the background we have, sorry about that, in the background we have Benjamin Banneker. Imana, deity who possesses all things from Rwanda. And for the recent person, Granville Woods. Now you see him with a light bulb. They found that the first person who actually invented the light bulb, for a lot of people that don't know, was actually a person of African descent, an African American person, but an actual European person took the credit for inventing the light bulb, which has actually been disproved. It was actually proven that Granville Woods invented the light bulb. He's from Columbus, Ohio. Okay, he was born in 1856 and lived until 1910 in New York. And you know, the Four of Pentacles is all about the miser and selfishness and greed in its darker aspect, or its more like negative aspect. And I feel like this is a good representation of that. So see how you can get a lot out of these cards. I feel like the creator really put thought into who they would add to every one of these suits. And it's why I'm doing a little bit more of an elaborate walkthrough, because I kind of wanted to give this deck its fair shot and let you guys make up your mind whether you resonated with it or not. Agia Muska is supposed to be a demon eater of the desert from southwestern Africa. And you have Sojourner Truth, which, remember I said a demon eater. Sojourner Truth dealt with a lot of bad things in her life. You know, she was a very great person for the Black community. So you can see how that would tie with each other, right? Enge na Teru Kap is the deity giver of the flocks to the founder of the Maasai tribe in Kenya. And they tied him to Harriet Tubman, the Black Moses. So do you see what I'm saying? Going to Africa, then relating it to America. I love it. Number 7 is Tano, the deity of healing from Ghana. And they tied him to Henry Ossain Flipper. I don't know who this is. I'm going to research. Some of these people, like I said, I don't know who the recent people are, so I'm going to research and see how those stories tie together. So this deck inspires me to do more study about our history. Gu, deity of tools from Benin and Togo, and Elijah McCoy. 9, the boy in the coin-filled gourds from Senegal, and Jan Mes de Zeliger of Paramaribo, Dutch Ghana, 1852 to Lynn, Massachusetts, 1889. And number 10, Om B. Weedy, ancestral protecting spirits of Gabon, and Martin Luther King. I love how they, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, which had their own different interpretations and ways of going about freeing their people, because they both wanted to free their people. One wanted to do it through assimilation, and another wanted to do it in a different way. He kind of, Malcolm X, believed more in fixing our own community within ourselves. Like, we need to help ourselves, right? So they had different approaches, but both are valid to the civil rights movement, right? Knave is your Kamunu, which is a mortal hero pupil of Nyambe, Nambia. Nyambe, Nambia. Okay, so that is Kamunu, which is a mortal hero. Okay. The ninth, you have Domfe, which is supposed to be a deity of rain in Central Africa. Your queen is Allah, which is supposed to be the Earth Mother, deity of fertility from Nigeria. King, you have Te So Ede, conqueror, prince, and innovator from Nigeria. For the wands, you have, I'm going to try my best to say this, Omum Borum Bonga, which is the tree of life in African spirituality from Nambia, Africa, which is supposed to be the beginning of all life, the starting point of creation. Okay? In many indigenous practices, the tree has a link to our ancestors, okay? Especially the roots of the trees were believed to be the way that we would talk to ancestors. I can go on and on about that. Maybe one day I'll actually make a video more in depth about that. 2, Obambu, spirit of the unburied dead that possess newborns with madness from West Africa. And they tied Bill Pickett to this card for modern times. 3, the goat and the hyenas and Nat Love are represented in this card. Anachi, the healing protector of the Ashantis from Ghana, and Robert Smalls. 5, you have Olokun and the chameleon from Nigeria, and Denmark Vesey from St. Thomas Santo Domingo. Like I had said before, you have people of African descent in the Caribbean. They put someone there from Santo Domingo. Okay. 6, you have King Tu, legendary king of Uganda, and Jesse Owens. And that is for the 6 of Wands. 7, Dubi Aku, the child who deceived death from Ghana. And you have Milla Granson. For the 9 of Wands, you have On Yame, guardian and protective spirit of Ghana. And you have Caroline Still Anderson from Philadelphia. 10, you have the Night Walkers. The Night Walkers, okay, which are evil witch doctors from South Africa. And you have Charles Young. You have your knave, Techu, hero who brought fire to mankind, Galahad, Africa. For the 9th, you have Tushu Goab, deity of wizardry and metamorphosis from South Africa. Oh, sorry. This is Tushu Goab, spirit of wizardry and metamorphosis in South Africa. I made a mistake. And this is supposed to be the true hero who brought fire to mankind. Sorry about that. Okay, now we're getting back to it. Queen Mama Wata, which is the spirit of desire from Central Africa. Mama Wata is has different mysteries and different names in various different African traditional religious practices. So this is a very relevant archetype, even in voodoo, Santeria, hoodoo, so on and so forth. King Njambi, deity of the jungle, Nambia. For the swords, you have Ogun, which is an Orisha, but Ogun also has paths in Haitian voodoo and in New Orleans voodoo, and I'm sure in Candomblé and other different African practices, of African traditional religious practices. Ogun reigns over all metal. He's a blacksmith. Okay, he's the keeper of promises, so on and so forth. Okay, so he's very, very strong war in voodoo, very Petro spirit. Number 2, Androa Andro. Okay. Congo Basin, and is tied to Doreen Miller. You can get a lot from this card. And the Two of Swords is like a very hard card as well. You can see different skin color here, but the two people kind of look the same. And you can even read this as there's a lot of war going on in different parts of Africa and just in the world. A lot of race wars, a lot of colorism, and things of that nature. So I found that to be a very powerful depiction of the Two of Swords, because unfortunately, due to Jim Crow, and that's something that did not only affect America, but kind of spread to out the diaspora. They try to divide us as a people by skin color. You're lighter than me, you're darker than me, this person, that person, and things like that. That has transcended to other cultures. You have things like that in India, in the different parts of Africa, people bleaching their skin, people having race wars, tribe wars. So the Two of Swords in this depiction is very powerful. It just feels like a very powerful deck. The Three of Swords, the wanderer who defeated Chiruwi from Central Africa, and is tied to George Washington Carver. Again, this is a beautiful deck to learn more about Black history and our impact in the history of America, and to tie that back to the history and the different traditions and the different archetypes of Africa. I find this to be so valid. We have the Four of Swords. Congo abandons mankind. This is a deity that is believed to have abandoned his creations, human beings, and he comes from the Congo, and they tied it to Norbert Villeux from New Orleans, and probably butchered that name too. The Five of Swords is the lion, the leopard, and the hunter, and in the background is Marcus Garvey, and you see he's being like arrested and everything. The Six of Swords, Negunza traps death and he's from Angola, and Daniel Hale Williams from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Seven, the baboon tricks the lion. So they have like a folk story from South Africa, and then Paul Robinson from Princeton, New Jersey. Eight of Swords, Ga Gorib, the troublemaking demon from South Africa, and Ida Wells Barnett. Then you have 9, Unhala Kanyana, dwarf demon, sworn enemy of mankind of South Africa, and Garrett Morgan. 10, Kolu Molumo, which is the monster that almost devoured the whole world from Lesotho, Africa, is tied to Charles Drew from Washington, D.C. Knave, Badimo, guardian spirits of Botswana. Okay. The guardian protector. And you have the Knight, which is Moina, legendary hero of Mali. For the Queen, you have Yemaya. Okay, which Yemaya is in Orisha, and she is the protector of women in childbirth and things of that nature. And she comes from Nigeria, and I've talked many times about her. She's very sacred in various traditions. Anything that came from Ifa and has transcended to Candomblé and Regla de Ocho and Santeria and so on and so forth. And then the king is Asa, the protector deity of mankind. who is from Kenya. So that was a more in-depth walkthrough of the African American Tarot. I love the coloration in this, and I will be working with this deck, and I will let you guys decide, on your own, if this deck speaks to you, if it's something you will want to get, and things like that. In this deck, I feel the little white book is actually valid, because you can look up the modern archetypes in this deck, the modern people in this deck. You can try to look up the story. Some of this has stories in it, and the various deity. So I do love this because it has so many different paths, because there's just so many paths and so many walks of life that makes the African experience in various parts of America. So I do like the way the creator kind of tied us all together. We are all brothers and sisters if we're all descendants from the African diaspora, no matter what part of the world. You have people of African descent that speak Dutch, because that's where their ancestors were brought. I was talking to somebody recently. There's people of African descent in Canada. So there's just so many different parts of the world that we're from, that we were taken to, and things like that. So I love that the creator started in Africa and then spread it to different parts of the America. So I think they should have called this deck the African Experience, but it's okay. So the African American Tarot by Los Garibo. I got it for a little bit over $20. I like that the creator of the deck is a person of color. He's black himself. I love that. And I think you can get a lot out of this deck. So I'm definitely going to be using it. I will let you guys know how to connect with it. But I already know intuitively I'm going to connect with it, like I connected with the Afro-Brazilian Tarot. So I'm planning to use this deck for the remainder of the month of September, for the next couple of weeks. That's why I wanted to do this walkthrough, so I can actually use the deck. So much love, light, and blessings. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. And until the next video, continue to be blessed. And we will talk soon, guys. Please like, please subscribe, and comment below. Let me know if you have this deck. Let me know if you don't have this deck. Let me know how you feel about the information that I shared. I try to keep it as short as possible, but I'm going to be researching a lot of things. This deck actually inspires me to research, because there's some deities in here that I've never even heard of. So I feel like the little white book is actually valid in this one. And I think if more people would have read the little white book, maybe it wouldn't have come off as like offensive, I guess, because some people didn't like the art style or whatever. But anyways, much love, light, and blessings. Thank you so much for watching this video, and until the next video. Bye.